Bioethics 2.0, Podcast Episode 5, Health Law and Clinical Ethics. Bioethics 2.0 Podcast, Episode Guide. This is Podcast Episode 5, and the topic we are covering is Health Ethics and Law. You can find this information in Introduction to Clinical Ethics by Fletcher, Chapters 1, 2, and 4. Additionally, this information can be found in Schroeder's Practical Ethics for Nursing and Nursing Students, a Short Reference Manual, Chapter 8, also known as the Green Book. Ethics and the Law.
It's important to note that no one on any of the podcasts are lawyers, and we're not providing legal advice. Should you have any questions about the legal information contained here, or in any of the other podcasts, we strongly recommend that you get a qualified healthcare attorney to provide you with legal guidance. Moreover, I also recommend that nursing students and nursing professionals take a legal nursing course before you begin your professional practice. For the rest of the podcast, we are going to devote to discussing the relationship between clinical ethics and health law. Both of these areas have evolved together in a dynamic and interactive relationship. And because of the diversity of moral traditions in our society, among other reasons, citizens look to the law to articulate both settled and developing norms of conduct in healthcare. That's not unusual. Clinicians also need to know about society's legal institutions and their own institutions' legal processes in order to practice safely and wisely. Notwithstanding the importance of the relationship between law and clinical ethics, sometimes a very poor, even antagonistic, understanding of this relationship exists in many clinical settings. And the reasons are multifold. The threat of lawsuits and the cost of defending against them sometimes can sadly bend this relationship out of shape. The anger that many good clinicians feel about being sued and their defensive posture can pose many roadblocks to a simpler and less costly process of resolving ethical problems in the clinical setting. Ironically, if such ethical problems remain unsolved, they can flare into legal problems. Fear of the law and lawyers sometimes makes some clinicians ask about what's legally sound before asking about what is ethical. Furthermore, ignorance about what the law requires or permits may lead clinicians to make ethically inappropriate decisions. It's a little bit off color, but I liken this to learning about sex from the kid on the playground. Sometimes you don't get the best information from that kid. And I would recommend that clinicians don't seek out the advice of their fellow clinicians regarding legal matters. They are not qualified to speak on that topic, unless they're actually lawyers, so I strongly recommend that if you have legal questions, you seek qualified legal assistance. Ethics and law are related. Each field is concerned to identify norms of conduct. However, the domains of ththese disciplines do not entirely overlap. The law seeks to educate and to regulate by announcing a minimum standard of conduct and establishing disincentives for ignoring that standard. Basically, here's what you have to do, and if you disobey, here is the penalty. Ethics endorses many basic norms of conduct that are required by law. However, ethics extends beyond the law to prescribe desirable conduct and articulate ideals and virtues to which we should aspire. The basic point here is that what is legally permitted may not be ethically justifiable in a particular case. Ethical and legal problems are often entangled in cases presented to bodies such as ethics committees. And there is a large and evolving body of law that is applicable to many of the problems we talk about in these podcasts. The relationship between law and ethics can be thought of as a conversation. That is, ethicists borrow from legal reasoning, and lawyers build upon an analysis that may have begun in the ethical context. Some famous cases in bioethics started off as legal cases, whereas other cases started off as ethics cases, and the ethical norm became reflected in common law practice.
Major legal findings for clinical ethics.
What we've decided to do here is, since the area of health law is so broad and the number of cases are so numerous, the best way to present this is by topic and finding in the law. We will provide you the citation of cases, and you may want to consult LexisNexis or Westlaw to look up the individual cases. We're going to pause, and we're going to provide you this information on specific cases in a chart, and you can use the control features on your audio or video device to pause the podcast. Alternatively, if you can't view the information or on audio podcast only, please feel free to email me, David Perlman, at perlmand@nursing.upenn.edu, and I will gladly send you a Word document copy of the information in this podcast.